Now, I know that the big scandal with Puff Daddy, the indictment is going on. But did y'all know that while this scandal is happening, this is only a smoke screen for the whole heist that's happening? Like the steal of the election? Yep, it's going down. Because see, while y'all looking over this way, because you're paying attention to what's going on with Puff Daddy and the indictment, and everybody been knowing all this time that Puff Daddy is a freak and that did it with all these other people that did it with him. So everybody been knowing that. But you didn't realize over here there was a whole heist going on because the Republicans are trying to steal the election because they already know that who's not going to win? Trump is not going to win. So they are going with plan B. Plan B is to what? Challenge the electoral votes. And if they challenge the electoral votes, guess what? Kamala won't be able to become president until it goes to the Supreme Court. But guess who's in the Supreme Court? 6 of them support who? Trump. They've already told him that he's basically a king. So y'all paying attention to the wrong thing, because let me just go ahead and break it down to you real quick. Okay, so they're treating Diddy's indictment the same way that they treated Jeff Epstein. So when they put Jeff Epstein in jail, in the same jail that Puff Daddy's in right now, right? So he was in there, and then all of a sudden he went on suicide watch. Oh, ain't that the same thing they just did with Puff Daddy? Okay. And he went on suicide watch, and then all of a sudden there was the guard that called in tonight, the regular guard, and then was a temporary that came in the night that he unalived himself. Puff Daddy done already told y'all that his life is in danger. You know why his life is in danger? It's because of all these people, all these higher up people that are also in those videotapes. It's the same playbook. Y'all better start paying attention to what the hell is going on, because let me tell y'all something. If Trump get back in that White House, see that Project 2025, see, they had already been working on this already. They've been working on Project 2025, but they are trying to put it into play, and it is absolutely imperative that they put it into play. But let me tell y'all something. It's going to affect a whole bunch of us. Not just black and brown people, white folks too, okay? And at the end of the day, you want to call Hispanics and Haitians and everybody else illegal aliens, but wait a minute, hold up. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. How the hell you gonna discover something that was already here and people were already here in existence before your ass came over here and what, stole it? Come on now. It's time to wake up and realize what's going on. I know a lot of y'all probably don't pay attention to a lot of these things because at this point, see, TikTok has ruined a lot of people have taken your attention span to the attention span of a damn paperclip. So people don't like to stay on. They like to skid by stuff. Look at something for about a minute or two and then they on to the next thing. That's the whole plan, to take your attention span away. It's all about programming, people. It's programming. But you got to wake up and you got to pay attention to it, because see, what they're doing is trying to spew hate out. They want y'all to stay divided, but at the end of the day, we really all the same. Well, most of us anyway. If you're not, if I say that because if you're not part of the top 1% in the 50 richest families here in America, of those 50, 28 of them support the Republicans. So while everybody is around here hating each other and doing all this other shit, guess what? Project 2025 is gonna affect your ass too. So y'all really hating the wrong people. For real. See, it's some people, it's some corporations and them big folks that y'all need to be paying attention to, because those are the people that are really running the country. You know why? Money. It's the money. So pay attention to what's going on. I know that you probably don't watch C-SPAN and you probably don't watch the congressional hearings and all that kind of shit. But guess what? I do. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put a clip right behind this one. And join my YouTube page, because I'm going to expose a lot of things. See, it's time to hip y'all to a lot of the shit that's been going on, and they've been playing in our faces this whole time. And it's time for us to start playing back. Like, for real, for real. But just hold on, because I want y'all to listen to this. Now, it's a lot of freaks out here. I promise you, it's a lot of them. It's a lot of freaks going on. Yeah, it's a lot of freaky shit going on around here. But it's a whole lot of scandals and it's a whole lot of dirty shit that's going on too with the GOPs. And we cannot let this happen because it's going to hurt everybody. But just take a listen to this.
Chairman yields back. Gentleman now, our chair now recognizes Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses. We've been talking a lot about the Biden-Harris record. It's, I think, important to note that we're doing this hearing likely because the debate was such a disaster for Donald Trump and for the House majority. Now, I was actually there in Philly. It was embarrassing to watch. Donald Trump admitted, of course, to terminating Roe v. Wade. He attacked reproductive freedoms. He wants to kill the Affordable Care Act and spread misinformation about immigrants eating cats and dogs. And I just also want to remind folks that we've been talking a lot about Project 2025, of which many witnesses know a lot about, and which Donald Trump said contains many good ideas. But it's not just Project 2025. Donald Trump has already been the president, and I thought it was also important at this moment to review his record. Let's start with some of the facts about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, first and foremost, had the worst jobs presidency since World War II and maybe American history. The worst jobs record since World War II and maybe American history. He lost 4.9 million American jobs. He added 4.8 trillion to the debt, even without the COVID-related spending. Now, cities and communities like mine were facing disaster. State and local governments were looking at service cuts. Schools, vital programs were all being looked at being cut. By contrast, if we're talking about the Biden-Harris record, 15.4 million jobs were added during the Biden-Harris administration. And the Project 2025 agenda, we know, will raise a sales tax on everything we buy, and economists think it will cost the American family an average of $1,700 per year and would cost 600,000 American jobs and could even cause a recession. But it's not just the economic destruction. Let's talk about his COVID mismanagement. We lost 1.3 million American lives, a disaster under Donald Trump. He asked people that we could combat the virus by injecting disinfectant into people's bodies. He failed to get PPE out the door. He picked fights with governors rather than uniting the country. We were on our own, and Donald Trump should own his failures with the pandemic. But let's look at the rest of the Trump record. He destroyed Roe v. Wade as the third thing on this bullet point. He brags about the extremist Supreme Court and turning back Roe v. Wade. Just this week, ProPublica documented a heartbreaking case where a Georgia woman waited for 20 hours after doctors refused to perform a routine procedure. She passed away. Her death was preventable, but Donald Trump is putting these state abortion bans in place through his judges and the legislatures all across the country. But let's talk about family separation, because it doesn't just end there. His record attacking immigrants like myself and my family is also shameful. He's promising the most extreme mass deportations in the country, going door to door to arrest our neighbors and friends. He believes that immigrants poison the blood of his country, his quote, not mine. And of course, let's remember, he just at the debate, he kept talking about somehow immigrants, Haitian immigrants, are eating pets in Ohio, and we know that's not true. This country and the world should be united against this type of rhetoric and this record. We all want a secure border, but Donald Trump has shown us time and time again through his record and his future agenda, the Project 2025 agenda, that he has zero respect for immigrants and for the Latino community. But I want to also end with January 6th. Donald Trump betrayed his oath of office when he provoked an attack on this Capitol and an insurrection on January the 6th. Project 2025 shows how we will continue to threaten our institutions and our democracy. The Trump administration was a disaster, and you don't need to take my word for it. Why we're talking about the Biden-Harris record when it fixed the COVID crisis, when jobs are up, when unemployment is down, and not focus on the destruction of Donald Trump is clearly because this is, again, another political committee hearing. And let's look at what others have said. Vice President Mike Pence, former Attorney General Bill Barr, former Defense Secretaries Jim Mattis and Mark Esper, former National Security Advisors H.R. McMaster and John Bolton, former Chief of Staff like John Kelly. All of these folks believe that Donald Trump is unfit to serve as president, that he's failed his country and the Constitution. We cannot go back. With that, I yield back.
Gentlemen, yield back.
Gentlemen, yield.
Chair. Oh, I was asking for the time. Is it okay? Thank you.
Welcome to my channel, Sister Sip TV, and thanks for tuning in. Let's continue to listen to some more highlighted moments from this congressional hearing, and make sure that you hit that like button for me.
I recognize Mr. Khanna from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Gunasekara, you're the former EPA Chief of Staff in the Trump administration, and my understanding is you authored the Project 2025 chapter on the EPA. Do you still support Project 2025's proposal to reinstate Schedule F, which would lead to the firing of 50,000 expert civil servants?
Absolutely. And I think there's more quote-unquote civil servants that should be gone because the growth of the federal bureaucracy actually gets in the way of agencies fulfilling important missions like protecting public health and the environment.
And do you have an interest in serving in a future Trump administration should he win?
I do not.
Do you believe that the president should, if Trump wins, that he should implement the Project 2025 recommendation of firing these civil servants?
I think it's the president's prerogative to determine what policies he ultimately wants to implement.
What would your recommendation be?
There's a lot of recommendations that I would suggest that the president embrace from an overarching governance perspective.
Would that include the firing of the 50,000 civil servants, the Schedule F?
Yeah, I actually have a book coming out called Y'all Fired, A Southern Belle's Guide to Restoring Federalism and Draining the Swamp, and I go step by step of what I would suggest the president do to actually right-size the federal government.
Is it fair to say that there are other people who share your view who will be in his administration?
There's a lot of people in the conservative movement that share this view, and there's a lot of Americans.
And will some of them be in the administration? I mean, I have no problem in terms of the transparency. I just think the American people should know what their choice is. And my understanding is that your view is that we should fire these civil servants for whatever reasons. I haven't read your book. Maybe I will. And there are other people in the conservative movement who want to do that. And if Trump wins, you believe they should help implement that, correct?
I don't know who the president plans to hire for various positions. I know when he's ready to announce that, he will.
But certainly it's reasonable to assume some of these people would be in the administration pushing this view of bureaucratic reform, as you put it.
Yeah, bureaucratic reform is very...
And that includes firing these 50,000 civil servants.
Again, I would suggest more than 50,000, but there's a lot within the conservative movement that believe, and a lot of the American electorate that actually believe the growth of the federal bureaucracy.
I appreciate your perspective. I just want to make sure that people, because Donald Trump is saying, oh, I don't know anything about Project 2025. You should just say, yes, we're going to fire 50,000 civil servants like you've been honest about. I respect that, so that the American people can see if that's what they really want.
Mr. Khanna,
let me just go to Mr. Carr.
I would just say Schedule F, the policy existed well before the most recent iteration of the mandate for leadership.
Mr. Carr, you didn't answer Mr. Raskin's simple question on ABC and revoking the license. I don't need to know whether you make the same decisions with Democrats or Republicans. I just want to know simply, do you think, based on the ABC debate, in your role as a former FCC commissioner, and do you think that that is grounds for revoking the license for ABC?
Thank you. What I've said is consistent with what I've said for the past 6 years, which is every single decision, including in the licensing context, is one that I'll make based on the facts, the record.
So what is
with the First Amendment.
The whole country has the facts. We all saw the debate. I mean, it's not like some complicated question. Based on those facts, based on what David Muir did, based on the questions that were asked, would you recommend that the license be revoked? I mean, President Trump obviously has an opinion on it. He's made it. What's your opinion?
Look, I think I've been pretty clear. Again, I've been nominated by both President Biden and
that's not answering the question. That's not answering the question.
I mean, I've been asked different versions.
You know, I'm not trying to be a debate moderator, but it's a simple. That answer would never fly in a debate. I mean, come on. It's a simple question. Do you agree with President Trump's opinion that? Look, at least I respect that Trump has an opinion. Just give us your opinion, yes or no.
My opinion is that the FCC in every single case has to apply the law consistent with the First Amendment.
And I'm saying, how would you apply it here? If Trump looked at the debate, he said the debate was unfair. He says that one thing that people respect about him, he says what he believes. You're sitting here and not giving us an opinion. Just say, yes, I agree with President Trump, or no, I disagree with it. This is what people, they hate the obfuscation. Just take a stand. How hard is it?
My position is clear. What you're raising are concerns about weaponization. I think that's important that we talk about that. When there's a license transfer of radio stations...
This is a bunch of gobbledygook.
Let the witness answer the question, please.
I'll give you an actual case. A license transfer in South Florida to a group that people believe were conservative purchasers. Democrats said the FCC should block it because the election depended on it.
But my question is very simple. Based on the debate, and based on what
Democrats in Congress who wrote letters to cable companies telling them they should drop Fox News
question, then
because
let me
of the
try one last
decisions
time.
that the newsroom made.
Based on the debate, did you think that the questions were unfair or rigged in a way that calls for ABC's license to be revoked? The way President Trump has been very clear. I respect, he's very clear on his view. Do you agree or disagree with his view? It's a yes or no.
Gosh, I think my position has been very clear going back to 2017 as a commissioner.
Gentlemen's time's expired, but please feel free to answer the question.
2012, I've maintained a very consistent issue. But if your concern is weaponization, we should talk about that. When President Biden stood at the White House podium and said Elon Musk is worth being looked at, and then all of a sudden, the FCC abruptly reverses a 2020 decision to get him $885 million to bring broadband to 640,000 people. I think that's concerning. When Democrats in Congress write letters to cable companies asking them to drop Fox News because of the decisions, I think that's concerning. And so I think you've seen from my record a consistent pattern of always basing my decisions at the FCC based on the law, the facts, and the First Amendment. That's what I've done. That's what I'll always do.
Good morning. Mr. Kerkorian, you're an advisory board member for Project 2025, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Kerkorian, in addition to being a Project 2025 board member, you also run the Center for Immigration Studies. You've done that for decades, where you spread and disseminated writings of people like Kevin McDonald, John Friend, and Jared Taylor, correct?
We used to have an email service that distributed links to
those
op-ed.
to their writings. That's right.
And the New York Times and all kinds of other.
Correct. And you,
across
so
the board.
yes, I know that you're aware that you spread the writings of these three along with others, but these three are egregious examples. McDonald is the editor of a white nationalist journal. Your organization, as you said, disseminated his writings. He blamed Jewish people for the deaths of millions of people in the 20th century. John Friend, who you just said you disseminated his writings, is an infamous Holocaust denier. You spread his writings. Jared Taylor stated, quote, and I quote, this horrible quote, that when black people are left on their own, civilization disappears, end quote. That's what he said. You, a Project 2025,
we distributed only.
You only distributed. Correct. I understand. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. Correct. You only disseminated writings from multiple white nationalists. Reclaiming my time. I'm going to ask you a question, sir. I'm going to ask you the next question.
Wrote about immigration.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. I'd like that time back. So you, a Project 2025 board member, you're stating you did not disseminate, for example, Mr. Taylor and Mr. McDonald and Mr. Friend's specific quotes here, but you just continuously disseminated these white nationalists' writing. One time is a problem. When you do it over and over and over again, it's a pattern. But I'll stop asking about the things that you and your organization disseminated. I'll ask you, Mr. Kerkorian, and I know you're a Project 2025 board member. Your recent quote from a few years ago where you said, quote, Haiti is so screwed up because it wasn't colonized long enough, end quote. Is that correct? Did you say that?
I'm happy to talk about that all you want.
You did say it. That's right.
I wrote it, yes.
You said that. Haiti was colonized as a slave plantation colony. The French colonized Haiti so that slaves would work on plantations. The end of colonization in Haiti was so that the people there would no longer be slaves. So what you're saying, and I read your quote, and anybody watching this online should go read it. What you're saying is it would have been good if they'd stayed colonized, which means that it would have been good if they had stayed enslaved by the French.
In the long run, it's one of the
in the long run, people shouldn't have been enslaved a single day. I'm reclaiming my time, Chairman.
And they had every right. They had every right to throw the.
What
French
you said
out.
is that
My
you would have
point
wanted
is,
them. Reclaiming my time. I'm talking
They would
now.
have been free
You
30
said
years later,
you said,
and they would have been in the same situation.
You're saying you wanted 30 more years of slavery in Haiti. Reclaiming my time.
I did
You
not.
just said it.
I do not
Honestly,
want that.
it adds up. You said that they would have benefited from the French influence.
In
the
the
French
long
were
run,
the ones.
like the people in Martinique and
Reclaiming my
Guadeloupe,
time, Mr.
who
Chairman.
were
I'd like my time
also
back. Please,
enslaved.
my time. This is my time, Mr. Kerkorian.
They are much better off.
Honestly,
now
this
than
all
Haiti
starts
was.
to add up. This all starts to add up. You continue to do this, disseminate writings of white nationalists, try to rationalize, for example, Haiti being colonized for 30 more years. You're a Project 2025 board member. In Project 2025, I couldn't figure out why on page 583, it advocates for not allowing racial disparity or gender disparity to be considered discrimination legally anymore. In Project 2025, it eliminates a 50-year-old executive order that prohibits discrimination in federal jobs. On page 586, Project 2025 advocates for Donald Trump to allow businesses to discriminate based on religious beliefs. Before today, I couldn't understand why Trump's Project 2025 could advocate for ending civil rights protections. Why would Trump's Project 2025, I know there's crazy stuff in here, but I couldn't get why it would advocate for ending protections against discrimination. But now I understand. We have Project 2025 board members here who are the directors of groups that the Southern Poverty Law Center has designated as a hate group. We have people that are on the board that developed this who have said, for example, that Haitians would have been better off with more influence from their enslavers. Now, with my time remaining, which I believe should be added, Mr. Chairman, because I was interrupted and I reclaimed that time, I have questions for Ms. Gunasekaran. You served as Chief of Staff at the EPA in the Trump administration, correct?
Yes.
And you've worked with the Trump and his administration to implement your ideas in the past, correct?
Yes.
You authored Chapter 13 of Project 2025, correct?
Yes.
So you would support the ideas in Chapter 13 being implemented by the government?
I believe they are very good ideas for the next EPA.
Yes, you would support those?
Yeah.
So if Trump was president and he reached out to you and said he wanted to implement your chapter of Project 2025, would you support him in implementing that chapter? Would you say yes?
Time's expired, but you could answer that. They gave you 15 seconds.
Yeah, I don't.
No, they interrupted me for.
Well, I'm the chairman of the committee. I decide. I gave you 15 more
I'd
seconds.
like to appeal that ruling,
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
look, you got your time. Answer with the witness. Feel free to answer the question, and then I'm going to recognize Mr. Fry.
Yeah, I don't believe he would call me and ask to do that.
Right, but if he did, you would want him to implement. You do want him to implement you.
Again, I don't believe that he would call and ask me to do that.
I understand. Do you want him? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to. I make a
Expired
motion
on the
to appeal the
Harris-Biden
ruling.
agenda.
I'd like to appeal the ruling,
No,
Mr. Chair.
no. Chair now recognizes.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
South
Isn't it
Carolina
within the rules for me
tribe.
to appeal the ruling of the chair and ask for a vote?
It's not an appealable rule. I gave you extra time. The ranking member went a minute over. I gave the ranking member 6.5 minutes. He took 7.5 minutes. Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much. You know what? This hearing is actually the best example of what waste, fraud, and abuse looks like, because the only reason we're having this hearing is because somebody got their feelings hurt in a debate. And I don't understand why we're wasting taxpayer dollars. Next time, tell your big boy to show up and be ready to handle the woman in the room who hopefully will become the next president of the United States. Nevertheless, while we do have two amazing authors from Project 2025, which it seems like everybody got the memo, like, yes, I'm going to double down and say it's my thing, but I'm going to make sure I also say that it ain't our homeboys thing, because we know that it doesn't poll very well with the American people, because the American people are woke enough to recognize that there is nothing good in it for them. So with that being said, Ms. Perryman, I'm just curious, and this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you.
Within the document itself,
yes.
There are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction. So I also want to talk about inflation really quickly with you, Ms. Perryman, because we've talked about it a lot. I'm just curious to know, is the inflation that we just struggled through, was that global or was that limited to the United States?
Global.
Global. Seemingly, it was attached to this thing called the global pandemic. pandemic. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just the United States.
No.
Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of the Biden-Harris administration and the United States is struggling, right?
I think the United States actually fared better than the rest
Oh,
of the world.
oh, yeah. In fact, we are, correct?
I think so, yeah.
All right, but inflation still hurts, and so that's why we have a candidate that has an actual plan instead of concepts of a plan. Or as I like to say, Trump only has offered concepts of constitutionality mixed with coordinations of a coup. But nevertheless, we're going to move on. I want to talk about the internet really quickly because we wanted to talk about the internet. Actually, let me talk about the border real fast, and then we can talk about Texas in this way. I'd ask for unanimous consent to emit this article from The Hill that says Trump says, blame it on me if border bill fails.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to move on to the internet, and I'm actually going to talk about Texas because I believe that the testimony has been somewhere around the fact that no money has actually been disputed as it relates to rural broadband. I'd also ask for unanimous consent to admit this article from the USDA.gov. USDA officials attend groundbreaking to expand high-speed internet access in rural Texas, dated March 7th, 2024, Italy, Texas.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much.
With respect, that was not the testimony.
Oh, I thought you said no dollars had been spent.
The largest single program.
My question is, did you not say
$42 billion.
Okay.
0 houses have been connected. There are other federal programs, including Trump-era ones, that right now are turning dirt and connecting.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I don't want the American people to be confused, because I was confused, because it almost seemed as if, considering the fact the name of this hearing is the failed policies, as if nothing had been done. But to clarify for those that are watching, you aren't saying that no dollars have been spent as it relates to rural broadband dollars under the Infrastructure Act, correct?
To be clear, for the signature effort, $42
Yes
billion,
or no? Have any dollars been spent?
not a
$1.
single person has been connected. That's
Not my question though. My question was, have any
issues. Senator Ted Cruz from
Okay,
Texas
I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
that
I'm reclaiming my time at this point.
many of these
I'm
bills, it's
reclaiming my time, which means, Chairman, I'm going to
per
ask you to
location.
stop my time because the witness is not.
Are you asking him a question, or are you?
No, I'm
reclaiming
not
the
asking
time?
him a question. I reclaim my time.
All right. The chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Okay, now I was at 41, y'all, so go back up.
We'll give
I
you
was
9
watching-
more seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. Here's the deal. You've testified a lot about the problem with the broadband rollout being diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said DEI, I don't know how many times, which is one of the issues that Project 2025 takes issue with. But it's interesting to me because I have another article from the Texas Tribune, and it actually specifically states that internet providers say they are simultaneously hopeful and skeptical about whether the incoming federal dollars will be enough to connect the most underserved Texans. Historically, other federal rural broadband funding programs have seen limited success because many companies who committed to providing broadband went into default after radically underestimating their costs. It doesn't say anything about diversity. And the final thing that I will say
Do you know
is
why
that
those
this
costs have
election,
increased
I didn't ask you a
substantially?
question. The final thing that I will say is that this election is the best example of why y'all are so afraid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because then you can't have a simple-minded, underqualified white man somehow end up ascending. Instead, you've got to pay attention to the qualified black woman that is on the other side. And with that, I will yield.
Gentlelady yield.
Diddy's case is big and has affected many lives, but Project 2025 is bigger and will affect all of our lives. Leave your comments in the comment section letting me know just how you feel about this situation, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more videos. Thanks for watching.